Good morning. I almost wanted to deviate from Exodus, but I think we'll go back. We'll take on Exodus chapter 11 here and begin paving the way to hit into chapter 12. We don't know how far we'll get today. There's only 10 verses in chapter 11, so we shall see. Chapter 11 of Exodus, verse 1 says, "And the Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterward, he will let you go from here. When he lets you go, he will surely drive you out of here altogether. Speak now in the hearing of the people, and let every man ask from his neighbor and every woman from her neighbor articles of silver and of gold." And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, and in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. So God is declaring what his desire to accomplish here is that it wasn't just to let them go. Oftentimes you might be praying for God to do something. There's something you want done in your life. And so you pray for it because you want it done. You want it accomplished. You want this thing to finally happen. But it's not happening. And you wonder why God's not doing it. But you'll see here, over the process of a year, if I go back again and just quickly take a peek at chapter 7. So where do I have this written down? There we go. So late April, all the way up until maybe mid-June. The beginning of the flood, referencing the stubble that they were picking back in chapter 7, and then the pools, the ponds, pools of water. So all those pools would show up when the Nile was at its fullest. It would overflow the banks. They would actually flood, irrigate all their crops, and create all these pools everywhere. So the idea is we have some hints that the water was turned to blood sometime from late April to early mid-June. Well, we know the Passover takes place in the March-April range. So we're talking it's been a year. Just shy of a year of all of these things. In fact, it could be exactly a year if that year, I said there was the April date for the blood, and then it's a later April date for the Passover, which is not really that late. It's pretty common, early April. And so who knows? It could have been on the 1-year anniversary. That would just be of God when he does things like that. And they've been going through all these things, waiting and wondering. And I mean, it's a year of all these plagues in Egypt. Things can't be going that great. But God didn't just want to deliver them from Egypt. He wanted to deliver them from Egypt. He wanted to establish his power. He wanted to send them away with articles of silver and gold. There was a whole lot more God had planned. But the only way God could accomplish that was by not answering the immediate prayers of the people. And remember, the burning bush, a whole handful of chapters ago, that was God saying, I've heard the cries of my people. So these plagues have been a year, but the cries were already happening before that. And so why does God delay? Well, God delays because he has a greater purpose and honestly a greater victory in mind. It wasn't just to get them free, but it's to send them out free, to establish his power. By the time they get to Jericho, the word has spread. I mean, these are the guys that did all this to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians were the greatest nation on the planet. So to be the people who defeated the Egyptians was kind of like mind-blowing. And so it says in verse 4 that then Moses said, "Thus says the Lord, about midnight I will go out in the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits on his throne, even to the firstborn of the female servant who is behind the handmill, all the firstborn of the animals. Then there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such like as never before, nor shall there be like it again. But against none of the children of Israel shall a dog move its tongue against man or beast, that you may know that the Lord does make a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these your servants shall come down to me and bow down to me, saying, Get out, and all the people who follow you. After that I will go out. Then he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. But the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not heed you, so that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. So Moses and Aaron did all the wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Verse 9, just for what it's worth, grammatically, it's like the Lord had said this to Moses. So this was always the plan. From the very beginning, God had said to Moses that he won't let you go at the beginning. And now he's saying, and now after this one, he will let you go. And it just shows that God was in charge the entire time. God was always in charge. He's always in charge of your life. The whole time, God's in charge. And while God is in charge, he's still allowing you to make decisions and others to make their decisions. And God has got that in control over everyone. Do I dare make it into chapter 12? You know, I'll just save it for tomorrow, Friday, and we'll see how much we can get. There's a lot in there. But just know what's coming is that the Passover lamb is going to show up. This is a pre-Levitical feast, right? This was before Sinai, before Aaron and the Levites. It's the Passover and the Passover lamb. And so I think you're going to find that any Jew who would disobey would have had their firstborn taken from them. And I believe any Egyptian who would have obeyed would have had theirs spared. It's what we had picked up a couple chapters ago about how in chapter 9, verse 20, right, the Egyptians who feared the word of the Lord among the Pharaohs of Pharaoh, they made their servants, they fled. The Egyptians started to do what the Jews were doing, and the Egyptians they feared the word of the Lord, and so whatever they were told, they started following suit. And so I think you're going to find that, and I think you're going to find Egyptians leaving with them as well. So interesting stuff to come. But the main thing is chapter 11 is just looking forward to chapter 12 and then recapping the plagues up until this point and just reminding it, God was always in control. He was always in charge. And just like he's in charge of your life, and while the people had been crying out for some time, God knew, but he had a plan, and it was the long run. It was deliverance he wanted to accomplish in the long run. And so maybe he's doing that with you too. He's working out a greater thing that's going to take some time for him to accomplish. Just keep seeking the Lord and trusting and obeying. And you'll probably get to the finish line a whole lot faster than if you kick against the goads. So, God bless you guys. I will see you tomorrow with Exodus 12, and we'll look at the Passover together. Take care.